Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to yet another edition of 10-1 Conversation. At 10-1 Conversation, we discuss human rights issues and human dignity-related concepts regarding the Amazonian War of Independence. Before we go ahead, I take this opportunity to wish all of you Happy Easter 2020. Marcus Garvey once said, "There is no future for a people who deny their past." Marcus Garvey is by this most likely telling Amazonians to accept that 4 years is a significant time period to evaluate their vision, correct their mistakes, and protect the human life that is irresponsibly lost to the barrel of the gun. As Garvey calls for acceptance of the past and an evaluation of steps taken, Che Guevara insists we cannot be sure of having something to live for unless we are willing to die for it. The question is whether those dying of gunshots, hunger, poor health, and other human causes in Amazonia believe in the cause of their death. Some Amazonians, however, strongly believe the ongoing defense against Cameroon is the only significant manifestation of something worth dying for. Considering the difficulty of an armed revolution, Che Guevara admonishes that the revolution is not an apple that falls when it is ripe. You have to make it fall. While Dr. Ayaba Lucas, president of the Ambazonia Governing Council, agrees with Che Guevara, Dr. Ayaba always reminds Ambazonians that a revolution is not a walk in the park. One thing Che Guevara admonished and celebrated was the existence of enemies. A curious onlooker of the Ambazonian revolution since 2016 will wonder why Ambazonians have become their own worst enemies. Someone like Dr. Ayaba acknowledges that he's made friends and enemies over the last 4 years. But it's up to him to either agree or disagree with Che Guevara that it is a sad thing not to have friends, but it is even sadder not to have enemies. As Ambazonians celebrate Easter today, the question of friendship, enmity, and betrayal becomes topical, as Judas betrayed Jesus and Peter refused Jesus 3 times. Where do Ambazonians stand during these critical moments when the Ambazonian revolution appears derailed? Life has become worthless and human rights have been sold to the pigs for free. On this edition of the program, we shall take stock of the Ambazonian War of Independence as we receive Dr. Ayaba Lucas, president of the Ambazonian Governing Council, to have his views, his appreciation, observation, and perspectives on the Ambazonian liberation struggle over the last 3 years. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Ben, can we have a chance? Dr. Ayaba, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot for having me, Mr. Ngali. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, despite the multiple invitations I sent to you and to your office, you've never shown up on the program. I was surprised and at the same time happy when I received a note from your secretariat that you're going to show up this weekend. I'm happy to have you on the program.
My pleasure. Congratulations for all what you've been doing on the show.
Thank you and happy Easter.
Likewise.
Yeah, Dr. Ayaba, what is he? Ben, did we lose Dr. Ayaba? Okay, let's hope he's back in a moment. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Ayaba, I said you're a very stubborn man. Can you tell us why you're that stubborn?
You know, I've been called lots of names. I've been described as an extremist, as stubborn, and whatever you can describe me. But as far as the Amazonian War of Independence is concerned, I sincerely believe that there should be no compromise on the aspirations of our people to be free from the tyranny of Cameroon.
Before we go to talk about that, Dr. Ayaba, can you have a look at the screen? Do you recognize these words?
I do. That's from my book. I
got these words from this book, and
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I wonder why you would stand in the courtroom after a judge has passed sentence, and you stand to challenge the judge. Does that show some kind of unnecessary recalcitrance and stubbornness against institutions?
No. You see, I was arraigned in a German court, and I decided not to go along with the lawyer because I wanted to cross-examine the police officers who were state witnesses. And I basically dismantled their case because the different witnesses could not corroborate the accusation. The judge recognized that, and the judge said there is no case, but said because of the way I have described the German asylum, he was simply going to impose a small penalty on me. And I told him that was unacceptable and I was going to reject it. And I did.
You from every indication, when I was reading this book, I saw that this is a man who is bent on having it his own way. Is that a situation?
No, I am bent on, human beings compromise a lot for their own survival. They easily give up. I remember the University of Boya, and people just said, well, if you study chemistry, there is no lab. That's fine. If you do mathematics and computer sciences and there is no computer, that's okay. People say, you are not the one who's going to change situations. The reason why mankind is trapped in a circle of injustices is because it's easy for people to give up for their own conveniences. And I'm not that kind of person who simply gives up just because I want to accommodate some circumstances of comfort for myself. And in our own context, that will be seen as extreme defiance.
Talking about that, let us move from the German court to the Amazonian Revolution. What, in your view, as at now, 4 years down the line, do you think must change in your vision?
What has to change fundamentally is to recognize the infiltrators in our war of independence. There was a time when we developed the strategy. We factored in the fact that Amazonians have been acculturated for the past 58 years in such a way that it will be easy for them to be swayed, to be manipulated. We also factored in that Cameroon was going to work extremely very hard to recruit from amongst us Amazonians who were going to do their bidding. But that these people will be visible, their side will be known. What we never...
Dr. Ayaba, you are making a case here that has been made numerously against you. We have heard a lot of calls. Last week on Amazonia colleague, Innocent Chia made a report, and he gave details of an irrefutable source within La République military defense or whatsoever that has clearly told them that you hired 10 B elements to go destroy Ambazonian fighters. Are you not making a case against yourself?
Well, if you believe two gentlemen who have spent their entire life working for CRTV, than an Ambazonian who has spent the past 30-something years of his life defending the interests of the Ambazonian situation. That explains to me why in defining the strategy for our liberation, we factored in these premises where Ambazonians will easily be manipulated by what my vice president called loud-mouthed birds who cannot build a nest. Now listen, you take evidence from a supposed irrefutable Cameroon source. You do not attempt to corroborate that evidence by interviewing Dr. Ayaba or Wana Benedict as the defense chair. Your evidence is not contested, it's not corroborated. And you use propaganda, the same kind of propaganda that Mr. Bo Herbert and Innocent Chia have used over CRT.
Because you have said on this program that La République had planted the elements within the Ambazonian revolution. Why should Innocent Chia or Bo Herbert not believe that from the very onset, from your university days, La République trained you and planted you in this revolution to derail the course of the revolution? Why should I consider you to be that neutral person or that holy person who cannot be manipulated by La République?
I am incorruptible. You cannot manipulate me. In that same university, I was dismissed from that same university. As far as the Ambazonian revolution is concerned, I am the only leader who has carried a gun and gone to battle. As far as this revolution is concerned, I'm the one who left Germany, left all the comfort of Germany, traveled down in 2004 and undertook the operation to bring down the Mongo Bridge. As far as this revolution is concerned, I am the one who has stood out and took responsibility for the right of our people to defend themselves. It is cheap, of course, for Cameroon to use the same people they have planted in our revolution to attempt to destroy the only one who defends the interests of Ambazonians without blinking. And I wouldn't give any credit to this kind of cheap propaganda because Ambazonians trust me. They believe in the strategy I have put in place, and they will continue to trust me until they are free from the yoke of tyranny, not only from Cameroon, but from the same infiltrators who cannot accept that our people even have the right to defend themselves, who as journalists have not used their professionalism to challenge and defeat Cameroon's narrative over Ambazonia. They have lost it, and this is their last desperate attempt, to hoodwink Ambazonians to surrendering their right to be free.
Okay, talking about you talking now, I was talking to someone who said you have nothing to offer the revolution. All you do is talk like a motivational speaker who tries to convince people to go carry Mount Fako from where it is up to maybe Mamfe, something that is impossible. And that is the role you have been playing. That is what somebody says. I don't know how you're going to factor this within the role that you have been playing in this revolution.
What did Jesus Christ offer people? He didn't give them guns. He didn't give them fish. He didn't give them bread. Jesus Christ inspired people to move mountains from one place to the other. The greatest gift a leader can ever give his people is the gift of empowering them never to give up. We undermine the power of persuasion. We undermine the power of motivation because we come from a material world where the only thing people really can quantify as a gift are material issues. There are ideational issues. The greatest people who inspired the world never gave people guns, never gave people anything at the Martin Luther King genius. The Winston Churchill at the most desperate moment of British time during the Second World War inspired the British to withstand German onslaught. What Ambazonians need the most is the belief from a leader that they will defeat Cameroon. What Ambazonians believe the most is the articulation of a leader who understands where they are coming from and where exactly they should be, even if that is damn difficult. This is the power. This is the same inspiration that Jesus Christ gave his followers. And if we undermine that and we are all people followers of Christ, then we don't know exactly what we're talking about.
Why Jesus Christ motivated people and convinced them to change their conscience, to act in a moral way. But you are trying to play a double role, one of motivating people and one of arming people. This is not what Jesus Christ did. Why would you want to compare? Why want to compare the arming of people to what Jesus Christ did?
Jesus Christ did the same. That's the same guy who went into church and scattered the tabernacle because he thought the house of his father was being misused. Jesus Christ made people to know you have a right to defend yourself. I mean, the Bible is riddled with instances where people rose up to defend themselves. I can tell you that.
Before we continue, watch this.
Commanders, all general, they open their ear very well, then they testify with me. All these videos, the one when I make me stand up sometime and talk with audio. I beg someone and look somewhere to keep them. With time, when I go play and I see all the prophecy that they give when I go, they come to pass one after the other. I can only talk all this thing and they happen. I don't be satisfied. Not be for today. If any come for the whole West, for the whole Southern Cameroon, if any commander or any man will stand the call except general, if he not say, when I be satisfied, some can be against Southern Cameroon, me put your for orbit on social media. Say if don't be, I satisfied alone, one man squad. But something they never know. God be choose me for this thing because I be very smart and swift to carry, but take all this right for them before the Republic hate one open. You give us why they win match every day, they not win you. Best loser will move you.
Thank you. What does this video tell you? Does it haunt you? Does it encourage you? Does it motivate you?
The video captures exactly what we are facing today, and which I was about to explain about what should be altered in my vision. That we never factored in that people who visibly stand for the struggle. Let me tell you something. The reason why I don't go out and slander leaders or Ambazonians is because it can only serve the interests of Cameroon. Even when I have irrefutable evidence of some of the things they are doing. And what we never factored in our strategy is exactly what General Ayaba was alluding to. Infiltrators, knowingly or unknowingly, deciding to divide our people so that La Republique can have inroads within our revolution. We failed to confront them seriously from the beginning. We failed to define those infiltrators who passed around as leaders of our war of independence and to shame them publicly. Let me tell you something. In most countries that are facing dire economic straits, embezzlement of resources that should be used to uplift people will put you in jail for the rest of your life. We have people in the Ambazonian War of Independence who have taken the revolution as a platform to extort, to assassinate, to defame, to create tribalism and divide our people for the interests of Cameroon. And this is exactly what Dr. General Ayaba captured. It doesn't haunt me, it is inspired.
General Ayaba worked with you. He died while working with you, or he was killed while working with you, and some fingers are pointing at you. My question here is not going to be, are you responsible? Were you responsible for his death? My question is, when you look at General Ayaba, especially when you watch that video I just showed, does it make you want to change your strategy or want to change your vision? Because Ayaba has been said to be one of those most prominent fighters that you brought into the revolution, and he's gone. Do you think it's still worth it to continue fighting with arms?
It is worth it to multiply the amount of arms. It is worth it to multiply the amount of arms so that the death of people like Ayaba shouldn't be in vain. Arms is not our first choice. The war was declared on us by a system that has refused to compromise. a system that has refused to negotiate, that has manipulated every opportunity that could end this conflict to keep us as perpetual slaves. We are not simply using arms, to defend the territorial integrity of Amazonia, but also to defend our right to life, to defend our women and children, to stop another Ngabo. And so I am still very much convinced that the decision to call on our people to invoke their right in the responsibility to protect was true then, is true today, and it will be true until the time the last soldier of Cameroon is evacuated from our country.
But when you put it into this perspective, and many more people are dying every day, is there no means of you at this particular point in time trying to draw some lessons from the past? I asked about your vision, and it seems as if 4 years down the line, you are not willing to modify your vision along the way. Am I correct?
My vision is unaltered. Maybe what could change is my strategy. The vision for the kind of Amazonia that we want, for the way our people should live under the sun in the country of their birth, remains unaltered. My vision for the kind of economic policy, social policy, political system remains the same. My strategy in attaining that vision remains almost intact. The only alteration in that strategy are two elements. One, to factor in the protection of Amazonian civilians as an integral part of that strategy. And number two, to clearly identify the infiltrators who pass around as leaders and deal with them.
We'll talk about the infiltration of the revolution, but let us look at factoring in and bringing in Amazonians into the revolution. Is it, we are talking here about a different kind of a revolution and not a change in regime. When I was preparing for this program, I was reading various revolutionary leaders, and I came across Fidel Castro. He said he started with 82 people, and if he were to do it today, he would go down to about 10, just to do his revolution to about 10 people. Do you think bringing in more people into the revolution makes it more effective, or does it make it does it make it lose strategy and lose the strength of it?
Castro fought a different kind of revolution. Castro was doing what we call a regime change. And so he was trying to undermine and dismantle the political system and put in place a new one. What we are fighting is not only to dismantle the political system, economic system of the regime of occupation, but is to carve out our land that has been occupied for a long period of time. Our revolution is unique. And the uniqueness of this revolution is to make sure that post-independence stability is guaranteed. The trouble with having a few people fighting for a liberation is to take away the sense of entitlement after victory. When a people fight for their freedom, they collectively own the outcome and can collectively determine the kind of system that will govern them. And that ensures political stability, that ensures a development and true freedom. And
is that not where the notion of infiltrators coming into the revolution comes from? When you open it, many people come in. How do you recruit them?
It is the responsibility of leaders to develop strategies that identify those infiltrators and deal with them. You have to open the revolution to all Amazonians. Every revolution has infiltrators. Carson Anyangwe wrote the other time, there were more enablers in the Algerian War of Independence than real people who fought under the FLN. So our revolution is not going to be different. Thank God that at the beginning of this revolution, we identified and categorized those who would consider as people that are going to undermine the revolution, enablers and collaborators, infiltrators, and we are even identifying others as spoilers today.
Thank you for that. So where are you today with self-defense? Where are you today?
Yesterday, I had a 6.5-hour meeting with all AGovCs across the globe. We received a detailed briefing from our defense chairman, our project manager and the Secretary General of the ADF, I can confidently say we are doing quite well. We have moved the struggle to a position where we can confidently say what we need is a takeover plan that dismantles the last strongholds of Cameroon within our cities. And I can assure you, emerging from that meeting of yesterday, we are building the last phase of our revolution that is going to ensure that we emerge as a free people. So,
Dr. Ayaba, this is not the first time you're talking about building the last phase of the revolution. You've said this over the months and over the years. How last is this last?
No, I have defined this revolution in 4 phases. And in every phase, I have defined it clearly. When we achieve international contenderhood, I made it absolutely clear that that was the 3rd phase of our war of independence. International contenderhood gave us the possibility to be recognized out of the jurisdiction of Cameroon as a player in the war of independence. I also defined that we need to move our forces to the point where they can be contenders on the ground. And I made it clear there will be a transition between the 3rd phase and the 4th phase. We are now in the 4th phase, the last phase of our revolution. We've gotten a lot of setbacks as we analyzed yesterday during the meeting. A lot of setbacks with the Bui incident, a lot of setbacks with incidents in Momo, but it has not changed the plan for the takeover.
Thank you. So you mentioned the internationalization of the revolution. Where are you with that strategy?
We have successfully internationalized our struggle. I can't count with my fingers the amount of parliaments that have been able to discuss our issue. It's a milestone. The United Nations Security Council has talked about our issue. Different countries have been able to discuss our issues. You have different initiatives, including initiatives that you yourself have been undertaking. We have the United Nations agencies are working with us on a daily basis to address complex issues on the ground. You have, even though we rejected it, finding the United Nations Secretary General being able to speak about a ceasefire declared by Sokadev is something that speaks of the level of internationalization and an outreach that we have made. Ambazonia is a household name across the globe, across the continent of Africa, and it is thanks to the strategy of internationalization.
Thank you. You in the last year, your vice president led a delegation to the Basque County in Spain. What is the outcome of that? We heard a lot about it. What has that brought to Ambazonia?
Recognition. It has brought recognition to the nation of Ambazonia for another parliament to be able to discuss, receive our delegation. It's a milestone, you know.
But Basque is not a sovereign country.
I have not talked about state recognition. I've talked about, nation recognition. Basque is an important player in the various institutions across Europe. Just a few days ago, a Basque parliamentarian introduced a question to the European Union on the issue of Ambazonia. Their newspapers have been publishing issues of Ambazonia. That's why I said we should enjoy this journey. We should enjoy the journey of our liberation struggle. We will reach the point where states will recognize Ambazonia as a state. But until we reach that point, we should recognize the fact that for another parliament to be able to debate our case and speak in favor of us is a milestone thanks to the strategies that we have put in place. We have not reached there yet, but we cannot simply, with a stroke of a pen, dismiss these milestones that we have achieved.
All right, I'll follow up on that, but let's talk about the European Institute for Peace. You floated the idea of the European Institute for Peace, organized a mission somewhere in Belgium. I received Edwin Gang here last week. He spoke about it. But where are we with that initiative?
The European Institute for Peace wanted to support Ambazonians, to build the capacity of Ambazonian leaders and to prepare us should there be a negotiated a settlement. And we brought in other leaders so we could go in as Team Amazonia. And they were focused on Ambazonia. But once the Swiss process came in with HD, and Swiss government made it very clear that they are going to be overseeing the issue of negotiation, the European Institute of Peace had to step back. It is a norm within the international system that if one country puts itself available and injects itself in the resolution of a particular conflict, all other countries step back until that country invites them to be part of the process, or when one of the belligerents insists that other parties should be brought in.
To be clear, is the European Institute for Peace an organ of the European Union?
No, it is not an intrinsic organ of the European Union, but it's an independent institution that was constituted by the European Union to do outreach on issues of peace, negotiations, and other issues.
So when the European Institute for Peace, when the Humanitarian Center for Dialogue came in, the European Institute for Peace was already there. And from my understanding, these two organizations played the same role. Why would the European Institute for Peace not tell the Swiss government that we are already here and we cannot?
No, it doesn't work that way. It was the Swiss government in the process of negotiation and outsourced the powers of capacity building to HD. And the European Institute for it's a non-governmental organization. And so it could not size up with the Swiss government. They could still bring the European Institute for Peace, to strengthen the capacity of Amazonian leaders, unlike HD that should have been playing a neutral role. But
I am not clear here. Are you saying the HD is building capacity as well as the European Institute for Peace was building capacity?
Exactly. The European Institute for Peace was designed to help Amazonian leaders reach the stage where they can negotiate as a team. And HD was playing the same role. The only role HD has been playing is the same role that the European Institute for Peace played.
Dr. Ayaba, you're not part of the HD and Swiss process. How do you know what is happening in there? How do you know they are building capacity?
You should be aware that HD contacted the Amazonian Governing Council. I have said this many times. And they met 3 of my top advisors. And once we came out from that meeting and realized they were facilitating the process of decentralizing Cameroon, we stopped any discussion with them. We understand the MO of HD by studying their involvement in other conflicts. We also know that the leaders who participated in the Swiss talks had made it absolutely clear that the role of HD was for capacity building. So it's information in the public space.
Yeah, but I don't think I've received information clearly saying that the HD is doing capacity building. They always talk about the Swiss process, not the HD process. They call it the Swiss process. And if you have this kind of information, are you not kind of telling me that you have done what La République did, planting spies within the Swiss process to come feed you with all this information?
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. There's humor in it, but let me be serious about it. No, you should do your research properly. HD is not the one overseeing the issue of negotiation. HD is an institution that was outsourced the responsibility for capacity building, and that's the only role HD has played.
Okay, if it is capacity building, and the European Institute for Peace was for capacity building still, Ambazonia is not short of experts and talent. Why don't you work with Ambazonian experts to build Ambazonian capacities?
Well, that's a good idea. And that's why when some Amazonian experts decided they were going to meet in Washington, and that they have some intrinsic knowledge on how this thing works. And we spoke with them and said it may be something very, very useful to be explored. We also have an Ambazonian who works also with a similar institute in the United Kingdom. And we have been consulting with him. So if we find out that there are Ambazonian experts who can really work with us for the purposes of capacity building and facilitation, it will be a welcome idea.
Yeah, it sounds here like you have not done your homework to know which Ambazonians or whether Ambazonia has that talent and capacity reservoir, because you had floated another idea of two Norwegian or Finnish professors who are going to sit in for Ambazonia or train Ambazonians or something like that. Yeah, did you not take the second step before the first?
You didn't do your homework. So no, I don't want to get into some of these issues. But
you need to get into them. Ambazonians need to know these things.
Yes. There are many issues that will remain classified for purposes of trust. For purposes of trust.
But Dr. Ayaba, you have said that you want Ambazonians to come into this revolution and play a role. If you classify what Ambazonians need to know, how do you build Ambazonian confidence and trust in you to be able to for them to join you in doing this?
Ambazonians trust me as they are. You should understand revolutions are complex issues and you deal with complex situations. When you have discussions with institutions, states and governments, there are issues of trust which you must be able to respect. And once I give my words to those partners that certain issues will be kept confidential, they were hoping for that. So, but this is what you should know. I have been having discussions with many countries, and we have worked extremely very hard to make sure that Switzerland does not have the monopoly on issues of this negotiation. That, like any other negotiation that we have studied, it should not be an issue that is dealt with only by one country, that there should be other countries that can oversee that process. That is how it has happened in a standard way. And we have done our homework well. We have worked extremely very hard. Ambazonians will know in the future some of these details. But for the moment, as we keep consultations, as we keep consulting with countries, Ambazonians should trust me that I will keep certain things classified until the appropriate time.
It's approximately 1 year since the Swiss process started, and you've been talking to other countries about making it a multilateral process. Until today, nothing has happened. We have not seen the multiple parties coming in. But you are still calling on Ambazonians to have confidence in you. Have you not failed in that strategy?
No. The point with you people is you want everything thrown out there so that you take it as politics, as debate, and you keep hammering. No, I don't play that politics with liberation struggle. We have, and the day I would put it out to Ambazonians, they would definitely know that I don't come out to play politics and throw out rhetorics. We have done excessive work. We have done something that has never been done in our war of independence. And Ambazonians they would be very happy once they know exactly what we have been able to achieve in the background. But we cannot come out here and be playing politics with those kind of sensitive information.
Dr. Ayaba, talking about internationalization, talking about self-defense, and talking about education, we are talking about putting in resources. No one has been able to trace the seeding funds or the original funds that the ADF or the AGOVC has used in moving forward. And the AGOVC for the last 4 years has been actually effective and present throughout. Where do you make your money from?
You are out there and you see the tough program. We even sell pins. We sell flags.
No, but you started selling pins about a few months ago. You started selling flags a few months ago.
No.
Do you mean this offer to money is what keeps the AGOVC going?
That's why I'm telling you to do your research well. As far back as 2016, we made the first flags. Look at the flags written on it, Amazonia. Those are the flags we made, hundreds of them, and we started putting them out there. We started doing American auction sales on flags. We started asking individual members to commit for their own liberation. Remember the slogan, be the primary investor in your own liberation so you become the primary owners of your own outcome. The Amazonian Governing Council has relied entirely on the generosity and commitment of Amazonians who believe in our trial approach of liberation. That has not changed.
So we are looking at a situation where money is concerned. You agree that you have raised money from Amazonians. Are you at a point where you can think you are ready to give an account to Amazonians how you spent the money?
We've always given an account. We told Amazonians we raise money to buy guns, they see the guns. We told Amazonians we raise money to put guns on the ground to make the country ungovernable. It is ungovernable. We told them we want to raise monies to do A or B. We have done all of those things. We have also made it clear, any donor, any Amazonian who commits to the Amazonian Governing Council and wish to see the books is having the opportunity to work with our Treasury Department to look at our expenditures. We are the most transparent organization that has ever existed in the continent of Africa. And I say that with a lot of pride, and no one is going to challenge that. The Amazonian Governing Council is the one owing its own members because the members commit to it, they donate to it, and sometimes they even offer it money with the hope that one day they're gonna get it back. And we are very transparent. There is no doubt we are incorruptible, and no one can ever corrupt any leader of the Amazonian Governing Council.
Talking about the leadership of the Amazonian Governing Council, Dr. Ayaba, when anybody's talking about the Amazonian Governing Council, they are talking about Dr. Ayaba. You are not immortal. You are not invincible. Is there room for someone to think that on a given day, the Amazonian Governing Council could be led by a different person?
This is the point. When you hear of Barcelona, what do you hear about?
I don't know.
You don't know. When there is a Messi in a team, do you think you hear about the names of others? When there is a Ronaldo in a team, that's the way it works. I'm the star player of the Amazonian Governing Council. But there are unspoken heroes, unsung heroes. The vice president who came out the other day and spoke out well. You have just shown the person who represented us in the Basque country is the vice president, the Secretary of State. You see, when people want to narrow this thing to Ayaba because they want to destroy Ayaba, they will pick their shot that if I am taken out today, the person they will get will be more uncompromising than myself. You want to joke with the vice president? Do you want the defense chair to come and lead? Will you be able to have a discussion? I am the peacemaker in the Amazonian Governing Council. I am the guy who makes things work, with other movements. The council, take for example, we were over 80 people yesterday in a 6.5-hour meeting. You have leaders of the Council of Mission. We have a Senate. We have the Parliament in the Council of, in the National Council, the Senate in the Council of Mission representing all AGOVC representatives in their different missions across the globe. We are the most structured organization, and I can assure you we will beat the ANC in terms of our organizational prowess, our charter, and the level of accountability that we do in terms of political power.
The organizational structure framework of the Ambazonia Governing Council, as you just say, sounds like a government, and you say you're not a government. You fight, you criticize all those who are talking about setting up a government during the revolution, but from what you're saying, you are running a government.
Ambazonians. Listen, we call it the Ambazonian Governing Council, a council, because it was brought about through the effort of the Southern Cameroons Youth League, the Southern Cameroons National Council, Ambazonian Army, and other organizations. We decided to create a council that brought together all of these organizations, and we have structured it in such a way that it reflects a revolutionary movement that also has the potential to prepare for post-independence governance. We are a revolutionary movement, and we are not a government. And you can see the difference in our functionality with all the others who call themselves a government.
So let's look at it this way. One of the main criticisms that the Ambazonian movement has received over the last 4 years is the creation of multiple movements, organs, structures, bodies, name it as you want. When was the AGC or the AGOC founded?
2013.
Was it founded ex nihilo, or was it a breakup from the SCYL?
No, it wasn't a breakup. At that time, I was acting as the Secretary General of the Southern Cameroons Youth League. We realized that as individual organizations, we didn't have the capacity, to push forward the liberation struggle. And so if we pool our resources together in creating a common council where all of us could operate inside, we could be more effective. But in creating this council, we didn't take away the functionality of the other movement. The SCNC could still function, the Ambazonian could still function, the SCYL could still function. So it was a platform created, to make sure that all of us could pool our resources, our talent, our creative ability to be more impactful against Cameroon.
So what you're basically saying is the AGOC doesn't bother if there are any other movements that are growing and wanting to prosecute this revolution?
What is wrong in plurality? The last time I plural society, a competitive society, is healthy. It only depends on the kinds of the kind of tactics that we use. The existence of other movements in this revolution is healthy. What we condemn are the instrumentalization, the tactics of politics that are being used. So there's nothing wrong for myself to exist, Jomba Akoro to exist, Yerima to exist. And if we pull our forces together, we can help one another to be more effective. We will not build an Ambazonia where there is monolithism, the one party governing that cannot understand its own mistakes, cannot be criticized. And all revolutions that I know have existed with multiple fronts.
Let's talk about you. The British Council of the British Parliament recently published a report. And in that report, they say in the AGOC, you make decisions alone. In other words, they say you are a dictator. In other words, they say if Ambazonia attains independence today with you at the helm, Ambazonia is going to go into a dictatorship. Why are you a dictator, Dr. Ayaba?
Listen, I don't even have powers as president. Yesterday, during the meeting, one of our tough soldiers in the United Kingdom asked me how it was possible that the DDC, that's a couple who has never been a member of the Ambazonian Governing Council, could suddenly become the Deputy Chief of Defense. And that is the first time they realized I didn't even have the power to appoint anybody in defense. I don't have the power to even veto something in my treasury. I cannot appoint anybody without the National Council confirming it. My power is in my power of persuasion. My power is in the vision of the Ambazonian Governing Council that I articulate. My power is in my ability to convince Ambazonians not to give up. That is the power they fear.
So why is it that everyone thinks ADF is Dr. Ayaba, while Ayaba is telling me the contrary?
One of the things you should realize is you are a researcher. And all of those research things are written without any consultation, without even looking at the AGOC as an institution. There is no way you see any reference to the AGOC charter as a source. There is no way you see any reference to any AGOC, like the Secretary General, who is the keeper of the institutions, as a source. They have listened to my articulations, my public posture, my strength as a leader, and they've simply concluded that this guy should have overwhelming power over the institutions of the Ambazonian Governing Council. That is far from the truth.
So you mean that is a misreading of your personality?
Mischaracterization, damn wrong.
All right. Thank you about that. I have no opinion about that anyway. So let's narrow down to what you have become in the revolution. Not you, but the Ambazonian Governing Council. Recently, you announced that the Ambazonian Governing Council is working in tandem with the consortium and the IGK to have Scbc change its format. But from the beginning of the revolution, you sounded like this thing is all about guns, no communication. Why the sudden change?
No, also wrong. When the talk about Scbc was happening, I was in South Africa, and I was approached that they were thinking of setting up a communication instrument that could help us, communicate to the ground. And I actually said the Ambazonian Governing Council will commit to it. Because don't forget, Scbc was created at the time of SCACOF. So it was a collective endeavor. And I have never said communication is not important. I have always said it is not, in a scale of preference, something that should be prioritized. Because don't forget, one of our finest communicators like Tapang Ivo, like Baramak, they sat on Facebook Live and altered the way that we conducted ourselves in our revolution. And at the time when people were being killed, we thought investing money in self-defense was a priority. We have always worked to make sure that we get communication to our people that is cheap, that is acceptable, and that does not take away funding from self-defense.
So your main business is self-defense. Another thing is subsidiary.
No, priority is self-defense. That is number one, and that will not change.
All right. What do you say about activists, AGOCs, ADF members, Ambazonians who spend their time on social media painting you as a god? I've never really heard you come out and tell them, tone it down. That is not me. You are mischaracterizing me. Why? It sends a message across.
Sometimes the way they talk about me, for those who know me, when I step into my office to make a speech, I don't listen to myself, so I don't know exactly what I'm really talking about.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those who talk on social media about you.
I want to explain something. That's why I say the way they think about me, I am surprised. Don't forget, I am not a trained communicator like you have people like the Bo Herbert and others. Everything I do in this revolution is learn as you go. And I cannot change the way they perceive me. I cannot change the way they characterize me. But as a human being, I am simply an ordinary Ambazonian, determined like each and every one of them out there. But don't forget, we also rose up to look up to people like Martin Luther King. And we were wowed by their tenacity, by their power of oratory, the way they altered society. We all looked at people like Mandela, who refused to step out of jail after 19 years, and they wowed us So it is normal for a generation that has been under a very strong tyranny to be wowed by a leader who has stood his ground and refused to blink. So those things happen in society. There are many of us out there who also wow me, whose ability to get things done. In the Amazonian Governing Council, I have advisors that I look at them and call them master. You know, we look up to them as demigods. That is human, normal human behavior.
Somebody says on the comment section, Ayaba, you cannot stop me from calling you the god of Amazonia. Anyway, thank you for that.
Don't forget, that's a body. And if I would think of just giving up this struggle, and I think about all those who believe in me, there is no way I can give up. And I think the support I receive, you know, the excitement I create in the minds of people creates also a burden on me. I have slept in the past days. I finished meeting at 2 a.m. and I went to bed since morning. I've been in communication, in meetings. That's extremely difficult. And I think that calling me a god or whatsoever does not change me. Who I am, I am what you describe, a stubborn soldier who is prepared to give his life for the freedom of Amazonia. That is non-negotiable. And Amazonians can count on me that there is no blinking when it comes to La Republic to Cameroon.
Thank you. Let us talk current events. In the last 2 weeks, you, Comrade John Akuro and Comrade Yerima were on Scbc giving prescriptions and guidelines on how to deal with the Amazonia, with the COVID-19 in Amazonia. It is a sad page, especially as Amazonians are facing this in the midst of a genocidal war. How far have you gone with the implementation of those guidelines?
No, we are doing extremely very well on that. I also said in the past days that our different institutions, the Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs of the AGOVC, under the Secretary of Human Rights, Amabo Bingui, from the Defense. Also, you have our OGC, and you have from the Momo State, one of our finest sisters. They are all producing face masks that are being distributed, you know, to our fighters and to our communities. The Chief of Staff is doing the same for I know Comrade Yerima and his team are working with the ladies who are producing the sanitizers. We have also begun production of that. So we are making baby steps to make sure that we are ahead of time to protecting our people and also educating them on the necessity for social distancing and taking the measures that will keep them safe.
All right, thank you for that. Then
and let me also add, we are getting report that our prisoners of war in Kondengi are showing signs of infection. They are coughing, they are sneezing, and I have spoken today with a journalist that has reached out to some of the prisoners, asking them to do videos to show the situation. And I'm calling on the international system and also asking the Secretary for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs to reach out to UN institutions to make sure they take the threat on our prisoners of war in Kondengi, in Boya, in Douala, and in Bamenda seriously. So there is a threat on our prisoners at this particular moment that they might have been infected by COVID-19, and everyone should go out there and make an alarm so that the situation is taken seriously.
All right. Thank you for that advice. Somebody saying I should read all the comments to you. Unfortunately, I have more than 1,000 comments already, and I cannot read them. I have to concentrate on what I prepared for the conversation.
I will make sure I read all of those comments, and I thank them for their support, for their belief in the strategy. If I go down, the vice president will continue with the strategy. If he goes down, the next leader will continue with the strategy until they are free.
All right, thank you. I was going to ask what is your feeling about Cameroon newspapers always having you on the front pages for the wrong reasons, or for reasons they consider to be the wrong reasons, and how you always react with that or react to that?
I don't think I usually see those papers. But what do you think? They should paint me like I'm a good guy, you know, their friend. You know, I'm the guy struggling to stop them from exploiting our resources. I'm the guy stopping them from carrying out impunity against our people. I'm the guy who's going to crumble Cameroon, that they know it, creating instability in overthrowing the regime and dismantling the institutions of impunity. So you think they should speak of me? Well, I don't give a shit what they talk about me. They should get out of our homeland and let us go.
You sound so defiant. Do you think if you're out of the picture today, this revolution is going to be is going to end, or you believe so much in your vice president and the Ambazonian Governing Council?
I believe in the Ambazonian people. What do you think is going to stop them from fighting? What do you think will stop the Ambazonian people from fighting? Who do you think is the vice president, or who do you think is Ayaba? We are only instruments for the objective. People want to be free. Tyranny for 57 years, 58 years, it's not a burden that anybody want to shoulder anymore.
Talking about people who want to be free, yeah, everybody wants to be free, as you say, in Ambazonia, but we see absolute disagreements between Ambazonians themselves. We see leaders who don't talk to each other. Is this just something that is happening? Is it a period for this to happen and then it's going to end? Or is this how the Ambazonian revolution is going to be?
It's going to come to an end. All revolutions have these same characteristics. Some leaders are ill-informed and they oversize themselves. Fundamental mistake in leadership is to overestimate yourself. And the attitude of sometimes banning organizations, instituting tribalism, calling on soldiers to kill one another, those are acts of desperation by leaders who overestimate themselves. Now, you have to be humble as a leader. I'll tell you something. When we went to the European Institute, this is the question they asked us. I mean, where are the other leaders? We had to humble ourselves. We had to humble ourselves, and I asked the vice president, reach out to the others, because we knew definitely we were not the only actors in this theater of operation, and we had to work with others. And when some went to Switzerland, they asked them, where is the Ambazonian Governing Council? If you are a leader who is asked this question, you should humble yourself and call and say, my brother, how can we do this thing together? And that's exactly what we are trying to do today with Comrade Yerima and Comrade Jomba Akoro. Do I agree with them on every issue? No. But we have decided that we are going to collaborate issue by issue. Where we agree, let's work together. If we disagree, hold your lane, but with respect for the order.
On what issues do you agree with Dr.
Sako? We agree that we have to educate our people on COVID-19. We have to produce sanitizers. We have to do something immediately. We agree that if you want to call action, there is no need for me to call action on a different date, Comrade Yerima on a different date, Jomba Akoro on a different date. We should all do it on the same day. We agree that Ambazonia, for it to be ready for issue of international negotiation, we need experts to be constituted who know the issues at bar, who can defend those issues, and the leaders need to work with the self-defense groups, with our bloggers who have been incredible in promoting our revolution. We need to all work together as a collective.
On what issues are you ready, or have you been working on with Dr. Sako?
No, we have not. I asked my foreign secretary to reach out to his team to see if all of us could constitute this team in Amazonia. And they have not agreed to that. They have continuously promoted tribalism, attack on our soldiers, preparing our soldiers to look for money. And we think these are infiltrators and they should not really have a space in our war for independence.
All right, let's talk current issues now. Have you ever ordered a soldier of the Ambazonian Defense Forces to kill the soldier, another soldier fighting for another Ambazonian force?
It has never happened. It has never happened. Let me tell you why.
Bear witness to me and to those who are watching us?
Not to you, to God.
I'm the god of this show.
Okay, if you are the god of this show, to you. Let me tell you why. The block by block strategy was designed in such a way that if you destroy one block, you open that flank for La République to come through that flank to destroy you. I have always insisted to our forces to find a way to collaborate with other forces, to tolerate the existence of other forces. Let me tell you something. They named 7 Qatar as a force, the Swords of Amazonia as a force, the AML as a force, Tokadef. Those forces were created by people who had an idea on what they wanted to do. It will be totally wrong to destroy these forces to have the monopoly over the Amazonian territory. The only time I tell our soldiers to exercise the right to self-defense is now. If you are threatened by those infiltrators who have continuously exploited soldiers to attack you, defend yourself with the utmost ferocity that you have. And that is what I preach.
So, Pen, can we have a transition, please? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us now, we are watching 10-1 Conversation, and we have Dr. Ayaba Lucas, the president of the Amazonia Governing Council, on set today with us. Dr. Ayaba, before we continue, watch this.
Me, I look this short while I don't take my rifle. My beginning again, my speech, they find me a hole to hole. All of them don't scatter, all of them come out. The short while I know the fight, wait to happen. Schools that they go them back. School will go where I will be there. Want to know about Ivo. School will go. Mr. Ruka open that ear. Me the one that they believe on internet government, they pay them, they kill me. I get like 4 confession and no publish them. When the worst come to the worst, I'll publish them. I want to see who they don't give money, they kill me. Not be one time. Not be one time, they'll give money, they kill me. And I know not to do, but one time.
Thank you. Welcome back to the program, Dr. Ayaba. Are you privy to the threats Ivo said he had received?
Of course, yes.
What was your reaction to that when your top general was threatened by internal forces?
My posture had been the same. Find a way for coexistence. I think I was naive to think that some of these infiltrators will not push the button that far. He was constantly being threatened. We have audio messages, audio communications between some of these infiltrators with General Ivo. We have those audio communications. They're trying first to buy him over. They're trying to persuade him to abandon the Amazonian Defense Forces. And when that didn't work, they moved to the level of trying to eliminate him. And when it was difficult, they targeted his soldiers and they manipulated him to send his deputy to go and resolve an issue, was kidnapped, tortured, humiliated. We miss Ivo. Amazonians will forever miss Ivo. And I tell Amazonians, your finest men are those that will provide not only independence, but to make post-independence very beautiful. Imagine an independent Amazonia without General Ivo. Imagine an independent Amazonia without General Ike. All of these men whose names have become emblematic in our war of independence are being haunted by those working for La République to make sure that Amazonia remains a property of Cameroon. But we will survive it. We survived 58 years of Cameroon's torment. We don't think these people are up to the task.
Yeah, you have always said the ADF is the strongest force on the ground and the most organized force on the ground. We saw in Bui where the ADF was kind of was attacked, and about 39 of the forces were taken. ADF's top most important General Efang was almost killed. In Kulgwe, we saw ADF running out. Do you still believe in the invincibility of the ADF?
Yes, of course. Look, there are things that we will not stand out here and talk about. ADF is the most powerful force on the ground. It's no doubt. There is a likelihood of 98% chance that any commander you talk to had been a commander of the ADF. Any commander on the ground you talk to had been a commander of the ADF. And based on the meeting yesterday, we are rallying our forces across the territory. The forces believe in the ADF because of its invincibility. They believe in the ADF because once the leadership says commit for guns, they provide the guns. They need the guns to defend themselves, to stay alive, and to defend the war of independence. And I think that the ADF will remain the invincible force, the force that will work together with other forces to free our country. You can't destroy it.
In the most recent month, we have seen defections. We have people in Nambere who was one of the top commanders, and I believe he had worked for the ADF, and now he's with La République du Cameroon. What accounts for these defections? You recently, in this program, you said it's necessary to bring Ambazonians together to prosecute this revolution together. But what is the recruitment strategy you use? Because we see people expecting every day I'm going to La République.
How many people? I mean, a handful of frustrated individuals who saw the revolution as a platform for different purposes. How many people really defect? I mean, a handful. We overestimate. Who is Nambere in the first place?
You trained Nambere in the area, I think.
I mean, we did not only train him. Once he moved to fight with other forces, he was nearly killed once in Bakondo, and we rescued him. But we talk of these guys like, they are some important person. Let me tell you why. Because they are used as a pawn. They are used by some of the infiltrators for purposes other than that of fighting for our independence. And these guys exploit them on a daily basis. When Nambere was somewhere hiding in Nigeria and making his life, and everybody was running towards Nambere, we totally put an embargo, no contact, because we know anyone who goes out of the battlefield and stays in Nigeria for more than 5 months becomes a business person. And so we overestimate these guys. He is nobody. He is not considered. He does not exist. All of these persons are, collaborators of the system, and we should be focused on those who are still dedicated, and millions of them are.
I agree. I agree with you that any leader, any movement would want to focus on those who are part of the fold. But aren't you concerned that if one goes, the second leaves, the third leaves, then 10 may go, 100 may go, 150 may go, 1,000 may go, 1 million may go?
What does that change?
You want the people to come in.
Yes, of course. We have never said 100% of Ambazonians want independence. My Secretary General said yesterday, soldier goes, soldier come, Barak remains the same. Listen, Ambazonians are determined. You have few infiltrators who join this revolution for ulterior motives. They will leave. And the earlier they leave, the better for our war of independence. We need patriots who, despite our differences, will still be dedicated for the liberation of our homeland, who will die believing in Ambazonia, its right to be free, not cowards who die many times before they are real dead. They should be forgotten, buried in the cemetery of, traitors.
There are these terms you've used many times in this conversation. We have infiltrated. How do you identify one?
See, I don't want to go into the semantics of identifying. Their action speaks. I mean, their actions.
When I invite you to this program, it's not to talk to me, it's not to talk to yourself, it is to talk to those who are watching.
Listen, when you have people who publicly go out and ask Amazonian soldiers to kill their own comrades, is it not enabling the colonialism of Amazonia? When you have leaders who come out and say, I mean, their spokesperson themselves said yesterday, calling the names of those they have kidnapped, and a few days later they come and ask us to go ask La République du Cameroon. What does that tell you? When you have people who do not defend to their death the interests of Amazonia to be free unconditionally, what does that tell you? Leaders who magnify differences, instrumentalize the difference to create the kind of schisms that disrupt our revolution. How should you define them?
Thank you. We are running towards the end of the program, and let me get this from you. When the Bui incident happened, and there was talk all over the place, when you announced you're coming out, many people were eager to hear what you're going to say. When you came out, you did not retrace or resituate the facts as they happened. You came out as a motivational speaker who doesn't want his elements to get despaired by such a situation. And that might have convinced one or two people to believe that you're avoiding the facts because you're responsible.
Mr. Ngali, I've said something all through this revolution. Amazonians like gossips. They like gossips. They like cheap talk. They like when we spend our time, talking left and right on these small issues. They love it. I have people who deal with those small issues. When the Guzang issue happened, my secretary for communication led the delegation that discussed with other actors concerning the Guzang issue. And we established clearly the non-culpability of the ADF and its leadership. It was established and there were confessions made. We have the evidence. When things happen, it is very important that leaders investigate them and do not use rhetoric that further exacerbate the issues, divide our people, intensify the tension. Because once leaders do that, who then should guide the people to focus on the very issues that threaten their existence? You think I don't feel pain? I feel pain watching General Ivo. I still have the last audio of General Efang. I have it. I have the last audio of General Ayaba and the last picture where General Efang was sitting on the ground and repairing a motorcycle. And he sent an audio telling me, this is your general sitting on the ground repairing a motorcycle. You think I'm not human? I don't have emotions. I don't feel pain about these things. But I'm the leader also of the revolution. And there are times when, against all odds, I have to be brave for the Amazonian people, for the 7.99 million who are still alive. So this thing is not a joke. This is war. People die on a daily basis. And if you get up every morning, you are still alive, know that somebody went down yesterday. And the responsibility is on us. For what purpose? Freedom from Cameroon. We bury people on a daily basis. We meet families whose children. I just had a meeting with a soldier in Kogwe. I had a meeting with a comrade in Canada explaining some very debilitating incidences. They are overwhelming. They are burdensome to a leader. It takes a superpower human being to lead a war of independence. And I think if God has given me some of those gifts, Amazonia should be really grateful that I don't come out and blow things and create more confusion and sit here and be mourning all the time. to be focused on the liberation. There will be the time, when we will look at all of these nitty-gritties that we are going through.
Thank you so much. Just one last question. Recently, you announced a penal code from Ambazonia. In my mind, I'm trying to figure out what that penal code could be and why you are interested in establishing such important documents at this time of the revolution. Why don't you just adopt the international standards?
No, we have to translate the international standard to reflect our own contextual realities. We need a penal code. Now, we find videos or pictures of people's fingers chopped off. Sometimes these soldiers do not understand the consequences. We hear about kidnappings, we hear about extortion. The people who commit such crimes do not understand the consequences because there will be consequences. They need to have this written. All soldiers need to know. Our civilian population need to know. We also talk about collaborators. We talk about enablers. Who are they? What does the law say about them? We know historically from the French, the Second World War, most collaborators were sentenced to death, but there should be due process, burden of proof, a way that you can look at these people and show evidence to show that they are collaborators. We need a system on the ground that holds people accountable even during the War of Independence. And in the coming week, we are going to present the penal code that will also show those who embezzle money that is donated by Ambazonians for their own liberation will face the ultimate penalty of death sentence. Because those who embezzle money, they leave Ambazonians vulnerable. They are killed by La Republique because the money that was given for provision of materials for their own protection was embezzled and used for different purposes. And so there are so many crimes that we commit in this revolution that has consequences on the lives of families across the globe. And the post-traumatic stress and disorder that is going to cause on our people.
Yeah, talking about the psychological of the war, you always articulate all the principles and policies you've put in place. But I've hardly ever heard you talk about preparing like some psychological support to victims in camps or in other settlements, like victims of rape and people whose families have been decimated at a go. Yeah, do you have any plans about that, or are you thinking about that?
We are already doing that. We are doing a lot, Mr. Ngali. We are doing a lot. There are wives of soldiers who have been killed that will look after them. There are children of soldiers who have been killed that will look after them. There are soldiers, I think yesterday, one of our soldiers, the mother has been sick. We've provided support for medical treatment. There are soldiers who have been in camps for 3 years and the pressure on them is high. We provide some form of kind of therapeutic support through talking, through provision of opportunities, moving them from one place to the other. We are not a very massive institution to oversee all of these things. But post-independence, Ambazonia will make sure that we create those kinds of institutions that look after these people. They've gone through a lot. To be in a camp for a few years is not easy. We have been in lockdown in Europe just for a few weeks and everybody is like depressed. Now consider soldiers who've been in bushes for years. Consider our people who lock down and every Monday, sometimes we impose 3 days of lockdown. The whole of Ambazonia will need some form of therapeutic care after independence.
All right. Thank you very much for coming to the program today, Dr. Ayaba Cho. I wish the conversation could go on, but if you have any last word, this is a time for you to tell Ambazonians any last thing you have to tell them.
I thank Ambazonians. Believe in me. You are a free people. We have to collectively stand as one to defend the homeland. I ask all of you. I know you have come time and again, especially those in the diaspora. You have made one-time commitment. We have created a system that will give you the opportunity to commit for the next 6 months. You have $20 repeatedly in the next 6 months will enable us to provide bullets constantly to our soldiers, will enable us to provide materials constantly to our soldiers. Don't give up on the strategy. Don't give up on the vision. We need our country back so that those detained can return to our homeland. Those who have died, we can remember them in the land of their birth. Thank you very much. And thank you, Comrade Galim, for having me on this show. And God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayaba. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the program today. We are elated to have received and hosted Dr. Ayaba here today, and we hope we can receive other leaders. The program stays steady next week, same time, 7 p.m., 10-1 Conversation on Scbc TV. Thank you and enjoy your Easter week. Ben, you can kick us off the air.